Picture this. It's the 28th of the month. You've got $200 in your checking account. Your rent is paid, sure, but you have absolutely no idea where the other $3,000 you made this month actually went. You open your banking app, scroll through the transactions, and it's just car fee, DoorDash, Amazon, Uber, Netflix, Spotify, another car fee, more DoorDash. Nothing crazy, nothing irresponsible, just normal stuff. And yet somehow, you're basically broke until payday. Now here's the really frustrating part. You're not stupid with money. You don't gamble. You're not buying luxury cars you can't afford. You're just living. And that's exactly the problem. Today, I'm going to show you one simple rule that could literally fix 90% of your money stress. And I know that sounds like clickbait, but stick with me because the math on this is absolutely wild. My name's Mamoon, and I spend way too much time thinking about why smart people make terrible financial decisions. If you're someone who makes decent money, but somehow never feels like you're getting ahead, or you know you should be saving, but you just can't figure out where to start, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Look, I'm gonna be honest with you. The rule we're talking about today, the 50-30-20 rule, is not sexy. It's not going to make you rich overnight. It's not crypto, it's not day trading, it's not some secret investment strategy. But here's what it will do. It will give you a framework that actually works with how humans naturally think about money. Here's the thing that nobody talks about. The reason most people are terrible with money has nothing to do with intelligence, and it has very little to do with discipline. It's about mental bandwidth. There's this study from Princeton and Harvard from 2013 that I think about constantly. Researchers Senhil Mullainathan and Eldar Shafir studied how financial stress affects cognitive function, and the results were shocking. People dealing with financial concerns showed a drop in cognitive capacity equivalent to losing 13 IQ points. 13! That's the difference between average intelligence and being classified as superior intelligence, just gone because you're worried about money. So when financial gurus tell you that you just need more discipline, that you need to track every single expense in a detailed spreadsheet, that you need to optimize every purchase, they're completely missing the point. Your brain literally doesn't have the processing power to do that when you're already stressed about money. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Mamoon, but I'm not that stressed about money. I make okay money, I'm doing fine. And look, maybe you are. But let me ask you this. Do you know right now, without looking at your bank account, exactly how much you can afford to spend this weekend without messing up your financial goals? Do you know if you can afford that $200 dinner with friends, or if you should suggest something cheaper? Do you know if buying that $400 thing you've been wanting would be irresponsible, or if it actually fits perfectly into your budget? If you hesitated on any of those questions, you don't have a spending problem. You have a framework problem. And this is where it gets really interesting. According to a 2023 survey by Bankrate, 69% of Americans who make over $75,000 per year say they're living paycheck to paycheck. 69%. These aren't minimum wage workers struggling to survive. These are people making good money, in the top third of earners in this country, and they still feel broke. The problem is not income. The problem is that nobody ever taught us how to think about money in a way that doesn't require a degree in accounting. So let's talk about the 50-30-20 rule. Senator Elizabeth Warren, back when she was a bankruptcy law professor at Harvard, popularized this framework in her book, All Your Worth. And the concept is almost stupidly simple. Every dollar you earn gets divided into 3 buckets. 50% goes to needs, 30% goes to wants, and 20% goes to savings and debt repayment. That's it. That's the whole thing. Now, I know what you're thinking. Mamoon, that sounds way too simple. There's no way that works for everyone. And you're right to be skeptical. But here's what most people don't realize about this rule. It's not actually about the specific percentages. It's about creating a mental model that lets you make financial decisions without thinking too hard. Let me show you what I mean with some real numbers. Let's say you make $4,000 per month after taxes. Under the 50-30-20 rule, that breaks down like this. $2,000 for needs. This is your rent, your utilities, your groceries, your insurance, your minimum debt payments, your transportation, the stuff you genuinely cannot avoid spending money on. $1,200 for wants. This is restaurants, entertainment, hobbies, subscriptions, travel, shopping, the fun stuff that makes life worth living. $800 for savings and extra debt payments. This goes to your emergency fund, your retirement accounts, paying off debt faster than the minimums, saving for a down payment, whatever your financial goals are. Now here's where the psychology gets fascinating. When you have these buckets set up, every spending decision becomes dramatically simpler. You're not asking yourself, can I afford this? You're asking yourself, which bucket does this come from, and do I have room in that bucket? That might sound like the same question, but it's not even close. Here's what most people don't realize. The human brain is absolutely terrible at abstract thinking about money. We didn't evolve to think about dollars and cents. We evolved to think about resources in concrete terms. Do I have enough food? Do I have shelter? Can I share with my tribe? When you look at a number like $3,200 in your checking account, your brain has no framework for evaluating whether that's good or bad. Is that a lot? Is that enough? Should you save it? Can you spend some? Your brain just sees a number. But when you have buckets, something magical happens. You know that 800 of that 3,200 is already spoken for because it's your savings bucket.
Willpower.
You know that 2,000 is going to disappear for bills and necessities. That means you really have $400 of discretionary spending left for the month. Now your brain can work with that. $400 is concrete. You can visualize $400. You can make decisions with $400. There's actually neuroscience backing this up. A study published in the Journal of Consumer Psychology in 2018 found that people who used mental accounting, basically creating these kinds of buckets in their head, were significantly better at controlling impulsive spending. Not because they had more willpower, but because the cognitive load of making spending decisions dropped dramatically. Look, I want you to think about the last time you bought something you regretted. Maybe it was clothes you never wore, or a subscription you forgot about, or going out to eat when you were trying to save money. I'm willing to bet that in the moment, you thought it wasn't a big deal. It was just one purchase, just this one time. The problem is, we think that way about every purchase. And here's the really insidious part. You're not wrong. One $40 dinner out doesn't matter. One $50 impulse buy at Target doesn't matter. The math on any individual purchase is always going to tell you it's fine. But here's what the math won't tell you. A 2019 study by the Bureau of Labor Statistics found that the average American household spends about $1,900 per year on what they call miscellaneous expenses. That's stuff they couldn't even categorize. Nearly $2,000 per year on purchases so forgettable they didn't even remember what they bought when surveyors asked them. When you have the 50-30-20 rule, every one of those decisions has context. That $40 dinner is coming out of your $1,200 wants bucket. If you've already spent $800 this month on wants, you only have $400 left. Suddenly that decision has weight, not because you're restricting yourself, but because you can actually see the trade-offs.
All right, let's break down each bucket in detail, starting with needs. This is the 50%, and it's probably the most misunderstood part of the whole system. Here's what qualifies as a need: housing, utilities, groceries, insurance, transportation,
This
minimum
chart
debt
clearly
payments,
shows
and
how
essential
lifestyle
childcare or
inflation
medical
can
expenses.
impact your
That's
finances
basically
over
it.
time.
Now, here's where people get tripped up. They think needs means things I need to live the life I want to live. No, needs means things you literally cannot avoid spending money on without serious negative consequences. Your $700 car payment? That's not a need. Transportation is a need, but that specific car is a want. Your $3,000 a month apartment in the trendy part of town? Housing is a need, but that specific apartment is partially a want. Your $150 monthly grocery bill at Whole Foods. Food is a need, but a significant portion of that spending is probably wants. This is where it gets uncomfortable, and this is where a lot of people resist this framework. Because when you actually calculate your true needs, most people discover they're spending way more than 50% of their income. According to a 2023 report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average American household spends about 62% of their after-tax income on needs. 62%. That means right off the bat, most people are already failing the 50-30-20 rule before they even start. But here's the thing, the rule isn't failing you, your lifestyle is. And I know that sounds harsh, but stick with me.
Okay.
Let me give you a concrete example.
About the rent.
Let's say you make $5,000 per month after taxes. Under the 50-30-20 rule, you should be spending no more than $2,500 on needs. But let's say your actual needs spending looks like this. Rent, $1,800. Car payment, $450. Insurance, car and renters, $200. Utilities and phone, $150. Groceries, $400. Minimum debt payments, $300. That's $3,300. You're already $800 over your needs budget, which means you have exactly $0 for wants, and you're supposed to be saving $1,000 per month, but you literally can't. Now you might be thinking, see, Mamoon, this rule doesn't work for real life. But that's not what's happening here. What's actually happening is the rule is showing you, in black and white, that your fixed expenses are too high relative to your income. And here's what most people don't realize. This is fixable. Maybe not overnight, but it's fixable. That $1,800 apartment? Maybe you need to move, or get a roommate, or negotiate with your landlord.
Remember,
that's not fun to hear,
everything
but if your
is
rent is
fixable over
consuming
time.
36% of your take-home pay, you are one emergency away from financial disaster. The $450 car payment? That car is eating 9% of your monthly income. You might need to sell it and buy something cheaper. And yes, you'll probably take a loss on it. But you know what's more expensive than taking a $2,000 loss on a car sale? Spending $450 every single month for the next 5 years because you're afraid to take the loss. This is the psychology shift I'm talking about. Most people think about sunk costs wrong. They think, I already bought this car, I can't get rid of it now, I'd lose money. But you're going to lose money either way. The question is whether you want to lose $2,000 once or $500 per month, forever. Here's the reality. If your needs are above 50% of your income, you have 3 options. 1, increase your income. 2, decrease your needs. 3, stay broke forever. Most people choose option 3 without even realizing they're making a choice. They just keep living the same way, wondering why they never get ahead, blaming themselves for not having enough discipline when the actual problem is that their fixed costs are structurally unsustainable. And look, I get it. Downsizing your life is hard. It feels like failure. It feels like you're going backwards. But here's what nobody tells you. Getting your needs down to 50% of your income is the single most powerful financial move most people can make. Because once you do that, everything else becomes easy. Now let's talk about the fun part, the 30% wants bucket. This is where the 50-30-20 rule actually becomes enjoyable instead of just restrictive. Here's the beautiful thing about having a dedicated wants budget. You get to spend it guilt-free. That's the whole point. You're not trying to be some minimalist monk who never enjoys life. You're creating a sustainable system where you can have fun without destroying your financial future. Going back to our $5,000 per month example, 30% is $1,500 for once. That's a lot of money for fun stuff. That's dinners out, concerts, new clothes, hobbies, travel, subscriptions, whatever makes you happy. But here's the key. Once you spend that $1,500, you're done for the month. Not because you're being punished, but because you already decided that 30% is the right balance between enjoying today and building for tomorrow. Now you might be thinking, but Mamoon, what if I want to spend more than that? What if there's a special occasion? And look, that's where the framework becomes flexible. You can borrow from next month's wants budget. You can cut back on needs if there's room. You can dip into savings if it's truly important. But here's what you can't do. You can't pretend the buckets don't exist. You can't just spend freely and hope it works out, because that's what you were doing before, and that's why you're watching this video. There's this concept in behavioral economics called hedonic adaptation. Basically, it means that no matter how much money you spend on once, you adapt to that level of spending and it becomes your new normal. People who spend $500 per month on wants feel about as happy as people who spend $3,000 per month on wants. The extra spending doesn't buy you extra happiness, it just buys you extra financial stress. A study by Princeton researchers in 2010 found that emotional well-being rises with income, but only up to about $75,000 per year. After that, making more money doesn't make you significantly happier. And a 2023 follow-up study confirmed this, adjusting for inflation to about $90,000 per year in today's dollars. You know what that means? Past a certain point, spending more doesn't make you happier. But you know what does make you happier? Financial security. Not wondering if you can afford an emergency. Not lying awake at night worried about money. That's what the 20% savings bucket buys you. Let's talk about the 20%. $800 per month in our $5,000 example. This is the bucket that changes your life. Here's what most people don't realize about savings. It's not really about the money. It's about the options the money gives you. When you have zero savings, every decision in your life is made from a position of desperation. Your car breaks down, you have to put it on a credit card. You hate your job, you have to stay because you can't afford to be unemployed while you look for something better. Your rent goes up, you have to pay it because you can't afford to move. But when you have savings, everything changes. Your car breaks down, you pull from your emergency fund and pay cash. You hate your job, you can take your time finding something better because you have a cushion. Your rent goes up, you can negotiate or move because you have options. This is what financial freedom actually means. It's not about being rich. It's about having choices. Now, here's where the math gets really interesting. Let's say you save $800 per month. In 1 year, that's $9,600. That's a solid emergency fund. In 5 years, that's $48,000. That's a down payment on a house, or a paid-off student loan, or the freedom to take a career risk. But here's what really blows my mind. According to the Federal Reserve's 2023 report on the economic well-being of U.S. households, 37% of Americans couldn't cover a $400 emergency expense with cash or its equivalent. 37%, not $4,000, $400. If you're saving $800 per month, you're building that cushion in 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And after that, every dollar you save is buying you more freedom, more options, more security. But it gets even better. That 20% isn't just about emergency savings. Once you have 3 to 6 months of expenses saved, that 20% can go toward retirement, paying off debt, saving for a house, investing, whatever your big financial goals are. And here's the really powerful part. Because you've been living on 80% of your income all along, you don't feel deprived. You don't feel like you're sacrificing. This is just how you live now. You've built wealth without even noticing. Now I know what some of you are thinking. Mamoon, this sounds great in theory, but it doesn't work for my situation. Maybe you live in an expensive city and 50% for needs is literally impossible. Maybe you have kids and your expenses are way higher than someone without kids. Maybe you have student loans or medical debt that eat up a huge portion of your income. And look, I hear you. The 50-30-20 rule is a framework, not a law of physics. If your needs are 60% and your wants are 20% and your savings are 20%, that's still way better than having no framework at all. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to treat the gap between where you are and the 50-30-20 ideal as a problem to solve, not a reason to give up. If your needs are 70% of your income, your goal is to figure out how to get that down over time. Maybe it takes 2 years, maybe it takes 5 years, but you're working toward it intentionally, instead of just accepting that this is how things are. Here's another objection I hear a lot. What about irregular income? I'm self-employed and I never know what I'm going to make. Great question. Here's how you handle it. Calculate your 50-30-20 based on your lowest typical month. If you make anywhere from $3,000 to $7,000 per month, budget based on $3,000. When you make more, the extra goes directly to savings. This builds a buffer that smooths out the lean months. And here's one more. What about debt? Should I be paying off debt or saving? Both. The 20% includes both savings and debt repayment beyond the minimums. Generally, I recommend building a small emergency fund first, maybe $1,000, then attacking high-interest debt aggressively, then building a full emergency fund, then focusing on other goals. But the point is, all of that happens within the 20% bucket. Alright, so how do you actually implement this? Because knowing about the 50-30-20 rule is useless if you don't actually do it.